as I read, Stanley Kubrick was some kind of perfect person. That he liked.
Did you say perfect person?
He liked perfection. And
Perfectionist.
yeah, perfectionist. Okay. And so, how it was living with such a person? Because I think it could be, difficult.
It was fun.
Well, as I said before, a great artist usually is very self-critical. He's not alone, and Beethoven worked on Fidelio for 25 years, and he still never got the story right, only the music. So, seriously, the word perfectionist, I always like to say, well, do you think he should be more of a slob and careless? And of course not. If he was afraid of anything, then it was mediocrity. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really important enough. He succeeded in making films that all remain. Most films disappear after a few weeks, not to be seen anymore, not to be heard of anymore. This is not true for Stanley. This is not true for Ingmar Bergman. This is not true for the paintings by Picasso. That makes an artist, that his work remains. Even if you don't like it, enough people will like it, and maybe a future generation will like it. That's what matters. That's what I think.
Okay, I don't know if you've asked, because I asked if it was difficult to cooperate with Stanley Kubrick, because, such a genius, he could be, and I don't know, maybe it's my imagination, but he could be a difficult person, like for living or for collaboration.
He was not difficult at all. I mean, he was demanding on himself. Now, therefore, he was demanding on others. If that means difficult, then he was difficult. But, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. And also, as far as genius is concerned, he always said, yeah, genius, fine, if they just knew how much work it was.
He didn't walk around thinking, I'm a genius. Absolutely not. He was working very hard, and that's what was his best fun. He liked working very hard. He didn't think it's a burden. And most of the people that worked with him were of the same philosophy, otherwise they wouldn't have worked with him, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking at our public, so maybe we have questions. You have so many. You don't have?
Hello, great. I want to ask of Stanley Kubrick inspiration. Was he just the kind of person who wake up and say, "Oh, I got a great idea for next movie," or he was looking for inspiration in some other cultures, maybe other films, maybe I don't know. Just I want to ask about it.
He was scanning the earth for a good story.
Sorry?
He was scanning the earth for a good story. He constantly looked for good story, and that was the most important thing. And then when he found it, he was off. He was very self-critical, and he wasn't going to make a film that he had any doubts about, because he thought it was hard enough work. He didn't want to misfire.
I understand. So he looked for the maybe not real stories, but which will be which show the real life. I mean, the real emotions and the real people, right?
That's the definition of a good story.
Great. All right, thank you.
Hi, I've got a question about Clockwork Orange. Because as we read, there was a difficult situation for you and your family. It was about decision to film to be banned in Great Britain. I want to ask if this was kind of protective decision? You were afraid of something which can be, or it was a real danger for you and your family? Because as we've heard, there was some kind of, I don't know, fascination within the gangs in London about this film, and I want to ask about this thing. And the next, if I can, is about...
Let's do one question at a time.
Oh, okay.
To answer this one.
There were some religious groups that wanted to kill us, literally. And so the police said, this is dangerous. And Warner Brothers was kind enough to allow us to pull the film, even though it was still playing. And we were very grateful because it had become horrible.
And the next question is about Danny Lloyd, because I've heard that he wasn't conscious that he was in a horror movie. For you as a mother, what was the work with Danny to give him that impression that he isn't in horror movie and in comedy? What was this kind of cooperation with child?
Stanley was excellent with children, and every child he's ever worked with has liked him very much, and the now grown-up people have always said they had a wonderful time with him. He was very gentle and very patient and loved working with children and had great success with them. And people often ask me, those poor twins, did they suffer being all rolled in blood? He was very clever and asked them to roll themselves in blood and scare him. That worked. And
Thanks
they weren't
very
frightened at all.
And Danny is now a professor of biology in the university in America.
It was the only film of him, yeah, as an actor. The Shining. He wasn't in any film. He was only in this film as an actor, yeah.
He's now a professor of biology. Yeah.
Paweł Budziński from Off Plus Camera Video Blog. We are, sorry for my English, we are speaking about Stanley Kubrick's films, and it's great. It's great that we are speaking about Stanley Kubrick's films, but I have a question to you. What is actually your favorite dish? What do you like to eat, truly?
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a vast choice. My favorite dish.
Yeah.
I'm greedy. I like all food.
All food. Me too, thank you.
I don't like all food, but I find this is spaghetti.
I have a question about Eyes Wide Shut and casting of Tom Cruise. Was it his personal choice to hire Tom Cruise, or was Tom Cruise given to him and he had to accept it?
Absolutely. He never considered anybody else. He always wanted this macho guy who always played very successful people, you know, on top of everything. And he thought that would be perfect. And Tom himself loved the idea of playing somebody who is sort of constantly in trouble and has a wife who is much stronger than he is. Yeah? So also, by the way, we never wanted to hire a couple. That was, in fact, a much later thought, and it was almost a hindrance to hire Nicole Kidman as well. But then we saw how good she was on this film, To Die For, holding a close-up for a long take. And Stanley was very much taken by her and asked Tom, "Oh, do you mind? What do you think about using your wife?" He said, "Yes, wonderful idea. Yeah, we love to work together." That's how it all happened. Yeah. But there was never another consideration for Tom Cruise.
Thank you.
Hello. I'd like to ask you about the approach to marketing. Why was it so important for Stanley?
Approach to what?
Marketing. Marketing and promotion of the films, because it seems like he did it well and much better than Warner Brothers Studios. And he preferred to cut his own trailers and posters. What was his approach to this?
I
I think I understood your question, but I'm not quite sure. He was involved in cutting the trailers.
The
correct?
trailers, the promotion, the
And
posters.
promotion, he was very much interested that his films should be promoted properly. He was interested in the design of the posters and everything, and he was also flexible. Absolutely right.
What was his secret to this?
What was his what?
The secret.
The secret.
Why he was much more successful than the studio, the other guys?
I can't answer that question. He was interested in every element of promotion. And for example, he tried out things. Take The Shining, right? Shining, we had a poster by Saul Bass, yellow and black, very mysterious. The film didn't play very well in the United States. So then we changed that and we used a poster where Jack Nicholson looks through the door. Apparently that worked better. So he was not stubborn. He personally preferred the Saul Bass poster, but the same was true with other films where he changed. Barry Lyndon. It was first a very colorful poster with loads of little pictures in it, and you see it in the exhibition now. It didn't work very well. Then he hired a French designer, Guy Bourduge, who did this poster, which was just black and white with a rose under the foot. That apparently worked much better. So he tried, he was very much involved, but there's no particular secret to that.
Thank you, and I have one more question to Christiane. I'd like to ask you about the research. You mentioned that he was scanning the Earth. How the research?
Research. Yeah.
Yes. How did he order all those things, the 500 books on Napoleon and the other stuff? How did he collect it and work with this?
He loved the preparation for films and the research. He felt he had a new university degree each time because it was a great pleasure for him to find out everything about a subject. And in the case of Napoleon, there was very rich soil to dig around in. And he liked the studying of material for his film. It was very enjoyable. And he was excellent at it. He was really the first human Google, I think.
Because he had such an interest in studying and collecting material, we now have this huge archive, which is managed by the University of the Arts in London, a fantastic institution, one of the biggest universities in the world dedicated to arts alone. And there it is, 17,000 photographs of Napoleon alone, which will go to the archive. This is all pre-photography. I mean, huge. He became an enormous expert in the Napoleonic period, and what interested him particularly was how come this brilliant man makes such huge mistakes and ruins himself?
Thank you.
And that's, of course, something that happened later on, again and again and again.
Hello. We ask a lot of questions that deal with Stanley Kubrick, but maybe one question directed to you. Working with a man that is considered a genius must have been really demanding. So what was your recipe for working with someone like that?
There's no recipe. I enjoyed working with him. I'm not saying it was a walk in the park all the time.
Did it require a lot of patience on your side?
Oh, of course it did, but he was more patient than anybody else. He was more demanding on himself than anybody else. So, you have to see this in balance. I mean, I wouldn't have worked with him for 30 years unless I would have liked to. I wasn't forced to, So it was amazing to work with a man who had this capability and this talent.
How about the relations with the studios? I understand that you were the one to handle all the battles that were with the studios. I mean, he had his vision. Probably the studios had their own vision, and you were in the middle, right?
I did not hear the question.
Sorry.
Is it right in the middle between the studio? You were the one that would even things out between Stanley and the studio.
Oh, sure, that was my job. That's just a job description. You know, he had to concentrate on what he had to do. And when it really mattered, he got very much involved himself. But the normal day-to-day administrative stuff he had to delegate to others. Otherwise, you can't do your work.
Thank you.
That was fine. That's no problem at all.
Hi, I'd like to ask about documentary Room 237 about The Shining. I know, Mr. Harlan, that you are very critical about it. What would be Mr. Kubrick's reaction, in your opinion? Would he be rather entertained by it or irritated?
He was dead.
A, it was not a documentary.
Well,
right? That's for openers. Number two, it's a lot of nonsense. Now, if you find a lot of nonsense entertaining, then it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Did Stanley watch a lot of films, and did he have a favorite style of film to watch, or did he only watch films that related to what he was working on?
Watched everything if he could. Everything.
He was a film buff.
Hello. And, well, I guess you had the chance to witness Stanley Kubrick's creative process, and I guess the exhibition is very much about that. So I would like to ask which shoot was the most difficult, both professionally and just professionally, which shoot was the most difficult to pull off?
It depends from which point of view. For him, it was Eyes Wide Shut. That was very, very difficult because it is such a tricky topic to put onto the screen. A very internal process. As I said before, I mean, everybody is an expert on sexual fantasy and jealousy. How do you put that on the screen? For me, particularly difficult was Full Metal Jacket. It was very unpleasant. It was a very, very filthy area, and every night at late you come home and you take a bath and the water is black. You know, it was a poisonous floor on this ex-gas work, which was so dusty and so filthy. And but this is a physical difficulty, you know, but that was very unpleasant, yeah.
Thank you.
It was former gas works and industrial bits. You can imagine what that is like if you burn it down over and over again in English weather. Wasn't good.
I have a question because we all heard like about that Kubrick had to postpone making the Eyes Wide Shut, or that about Napoleon, which he never completed. Were there a lot more such projects that he wanted to make, started even doing and then dropped, or like when he started making a movie, he wanted to finish it no matter the cost? And another question that may be connected, I once heard that he was offered to make a pornographic picture, a blue movie. And is that true? And how he reacted to this offer?
Okay, the first one is he prepared a few pictures and he decided against continuing. Typically, let's start with Napoleon. It was not his decision. MGM pulled out after he had worked for 2 years on Napoleon because there was another picture in the pipeline by Dina De Laurentiis. It was a Soviet-French-American co-production called Waterloo with Rod Steiger playing Napoleon. The film was made, could have been great. You know, it turned out it was not so great, but you know, a big studio has to make a decision. Do we go ahead or not? So that was one thing. Then he prepared a film on the Holocaust, which was also postponed for other technical reasons. He prepared then AI, artificial intelligence, for a long time, a film he offered to Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg made it after Stanley's death. So the blue movie was very quickly abandoned. Yeah, it was not his interest, really.
But it was his idea, or someone offered that to him, the blue movie?
Forgot. I couldn't tell you. It was never an important issue.
Okay, and why?
Do you remember that?
What?
The blue movie, whether he decided or what I don't.
It was a silly game he played with Terry Southern.
I think so, yeah.
And I threatened him.
Okay. And one last quick question. Why did he decide to give AI to Spielberg?
That's an interesting question. It would have been a huge technical operation. And I think now, okay, he never said that, but my interpretation is he really wanted to do Eyes Wide Shut. And the enormous crew and technical stuff that you needed for AI, he felt Steven Spielberg was the better director for that. So he offered it to Steven, and Steven couldn't do it right away, but he still went ahead with Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay, thank you.
I think
That's it, huh?
Any questions?
Right, well, I thank you very much. It was very, very pleasant. Wonderful weather here, and I shall continue to enjoy beautiful Krakow.
Thank you.